All right, Daniel 12. So what is going on in the world today? I often hear people say, why are they doing that? That makes no sense. What are they doing? Or wow, that was a weird coincidence. Yeah, nice. Personally, I don't believe in coincidences, but I do believe in God's written word. If he said it, it's going to happen. And it's going to happen exactly like he said, every specific detail. So, Daniel 12. Well, not really. Before I move into Daniel 12, I feel I got to finish Daniel 11. Last couple verses. Kind of just brush right over those. So remember, one of the previous videos I said to remember everything we see going on around us has a spiritual underpinning. Spiritual forces at work. Spiritual battle behind the scenes of the battles we see going on. Remember back in Daniel chapter 10, God gave Gabriel, the angel Gabriel, a message for Daniel to write down. Apparently it was a pretty important message, as Gabriel was held up by Satan, the prince of Persia, for 21 days, till Michael the archangel showed up to help. Then Gabe got away, was able to make it to Daniel, told Daniel these things, and Daniel wrote them down. So when you look around at the utter chaos and divisions happening all around us, it's spiritual. There's other stuff going on for sure. So, when Daniel was given these things to write down, why did he write them? What purpose? What purpose did that serve? And he wrote these things down 200 years before they even started to happen. Yeah, but why? Partly to give credence, or reliability is a better word, reliability. To show God's word is reliable, faithful to come to pass. If God said it, it's going to happen. Guaranteed. And so he wrote down in about 600 BC the things that were going to start to happen in 450 BC, 150 years later, give or take. And starting with the Babylonian Empire. Babylonian kingdom would fall, being taken over by a joint union of the Medo and the Persians, Medo-Persian Empire. Then Greece will come and conquer them, and then Rome, the Roman Empire, will come and take over Greece. And I covered in that just a quick overview, Alexander the Great, Hannibal, Cleopatra, yada, yada, yada. And all this was described and foretold in great detail, and all coming to pass. History in the books. But when we get to verse 31, that's around 200 years BC, before Jesus died on the cross, actually, about 200 years before he died on the cross, completes the terms of the new covenant. God himself being born of a virgin, living a sinless, perfect life, and then giving himself to die on the cross in exchange for us. For God so loved the world. So in Daniel 11:31, this general, Antiochus Epiphanes, he desecrated the temple there in Israel, in Jerusalem. And the Maccabeans fought back and gave us Hanukkah, Judas Maccabee and all him. That's verse 31. Then we get, in verse 32, we get some language and description that could take some looking into. Yeah, let me read it to you. Daniel 11:32. Those who do wickedly against the covenant, he shall corrupt with flattery. But the people who know their God shall be strong and carry out great exploits. So what's going on here? Most hold the position, and it's a good one, that this is, and verse 33 and 34 is describing the Maccabean revolt. But I think there's another possibility here. I'll let you do your homework. You can come to your own conclusion. But I think, remember, behind all these events, all through history, the backstory is spiritual. Spiritual forces at work and at war, which I will cover later when we finally get to Daniel 12. These spiritual forces are corrupting man and trying to take out God's chosen people, the Jews and those of the new covenant, the bride of Christ, the Christians. So one could possibly, without reading much into it, see this verse, verse 32, that it could actually be around 50 AD. 70 AD, 100 AD, the early church. Let's just say the days of the apostles and the book of Acts and beyond. Yeah. Side note, you know when Alexander the Great conquered the Persian Empire, he was hailed as Zeus, a Greek god, and he accepted it gladly. See, the powers behind are present. He accepted it gladly, and he died in Babylon, of all places. Agreed. Died in Babylon, where this whole thing started, the gold head on that statue from Daniel 2. He died at a young age, too. So he, this prince of darkness, he shall corrupt with flattery. It's going to sound good. So what is this, corrupting with flattery? This could it be the Roman Empire? The church of maybe like Thyatira? Revelations 2:18, a Roman religious system, a church ruling system with statues and candles and prayer beads and purgatory. You know, when Jesus, when he wrote about the churches in the New Testament, when John wrote them, relaying the revealing of Jesus, in Revelations 2:18, what does Jesus say there? Does he tell John to write to the church, the body of the church? To write to the members of the church? To the pastor of the church? Remember the spiritual underpinnings. No. Jesus says, and to the angel of the church of Thyatira write, or to the angel of Sardis, Pergamos, and so on. To the angel write, the angel of the church. So, let's go back to verse 32 here. This somebody is going to do wickedly against the covenant, the people who know their God. Who knows their God? Did the early church? Were they persecuted and tortured for their faith? Did they go out and fulfilling Jesus' command to take the gospel to the world? Verse 32, but the people who know their God shall be strong and carry out great exploits. They shall be strong. Jesus is our strength. And they shall carry out great exploits. Did they, the early church, leaders and believers, did they all not suffer great things, taking the gospel to the ends of the earth? What great exploits, I say. When we compress timeline in history and we go through the last 1,500 years or so, what was going on from the apostles, the church planting, destruction of temple, Israel, Jews scattered around the world, then Rome, the iron legs of that statue in Daniel 2, Rome fell. Well, Rome never really fell. It went to sleep, you might say. Rome was never conquered. It was just put down in a chokehold. Full Nelson with a chokehold. Yeah. But not out. No, Rome wasn't out. Back to verse 32. God's people will be strong. They will carry out great exploits. So the apostles, church plantings, like the early explorers, Magellan, a devout Christian, expanding the world, bringing the gospel, and the means of the gospel spread worldwide. Christopher Columbus, unlike modern scholars and writers trying to rewrite history, he was a man, a devout Christian, who knew the earth to be a sphere, like the Bible said, unlike the scientists of the day who all knew that the earth was flat. Those stupid Christian round earthers. He went out and providing the means of the gospel to reach further and further into the world, to every tribe and tongue. I believe this could be the latter of verse 32, the great exploits. Imagine discovering new worlds, new unknown worlds, and then in verse 33 and 34 goes on. With that in mind, let me read just what we read. Those who do wickedly against the covenant, he shall corrupt with flattery. Notice it doesn't say he shall do wickedly to the temple or desecrate people, or those who desecrate the temple. It says they do wicked things against the covenant. He shall corrupt with flattery. Who? The spirit behind these things, the Prince of Persia, Satan himself. Verse 33, and those of the people who understand shall instruct many. Sounds like missionaries to me. evangelists. They shall take the gospel. Missionaries. Do you realize how many evangelists and missionaries have gone out worldwide? And how many from this country alone, from America, have gone out with the gospel? Yet for many days, it says, they shall fall by sword, sword, and flame, by captivity and plundering. And so many are going to be giving their lives doing that, taking the gospel out. Yeah. Interesting. Matthew 24:14 says, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto the nations, and then shall come the end. Yeah. The word end, I think, there can mean like the principal end, or the aim or purpose. The end. There's a purpose behind all this. So this is where we're at in this timeline, Daniel 11:34. I think that spoke, yeah, the Maccabees in 31. Then I think it went into the early church and the missionaries. And then we get to 11:34. Let me read it. Daniel 11:34. Now when they fall, they shall be aided with a little help, but many shall join with them by intrigue. I think this is today. What will happen next?